Yo! Happy Sunday, it's your boy Trisha News, and I'm back at y'all with another one. Appreciate all love, support. Thanks for everyone who subscribed to the channel. If you're subscribed to the channel, make sure you do. Make sure you definitely subscribe to the channel at Trenches News 3837, the new channel. Shout out my boy C Hood. Shout out all the moderators. Hope everybody eat today and safe today. Thank God that we all woke up on this Sunday, man. But enough of that. Today's story time is about OTF Rio, Mr. 300, Mr. OTF, man. This is Mr. OTF. This is the founder, one of the forefathers and all that of OTF, the name and all that. Him and Bunamo was rappies on this case. And I was actually locked up with Rio for 4 years on the same deck. When I tell y'all, me, him, Chicken, Freaky, JHE, Travo, and a couple more people was on the deck, you know, with no problem. JoJo Real was on the deck. We was smooth. This 2017-18. But let me get into the story, y'all. On the night of September 1st, 2010, a team of 14 to 16 officers was executing a search warrant at 7701 South Horn. That's the BBG area, and Killer Ward is next door to it. The officers parked a short distance away from the home and unmarked cars and marked cars, while police officers were in plain clothes and detective clothes. They wore rated vests that showed Chicago police departments on the vests. The officers approached the back of the home in a single file line, with Officer Jones Goach leading the group. Goach breached the back gate. He breached the fence with the battery ram, and the officers then walked approximately 30 feet to the back door. At least 3 officers yelled Chicago police search warrant as they stood outside. With the battery ram, they hit the door when a gunshot rang out, and the glass security door exploded outwards. Officers Goach, as well as Lieutenant Glenn Evans and Officer Michael St. Clair, were injured. The remaining officers retreated and surrounded the perimeter. The officers eventually made phone contact with one of the occupants of the house and instructed those inside to exit. When the occupants complied, the officers took them into custody and a search of the house. And during the search of the house, which they recovered weapons, including an SKS rifle, as well as heroin and marijuana. Inside the house were Jones Thomas Paris Banks, Jones' cousin, Leslie Kitchen, Jones' girlfriend, and Jones' grandparents who owned the house. Both Kitchen and Banks testified to the events that night. Although their trial testimony differed from their statements to police taken following the shooting and their testimony before grand jury and the pretrial statements, Kitchen and Banks stated that on the night of August 31st, 2010, they were in the back room of a residence with Jones and Thomas, which is Rio, which is OTF Rio, watching TV and smoking marijuana. At some point in the evening, Banks brought a gun into the room, which is OTF Bunamo cousin. According to Banks, he did as Jones directed. Around midnight, there was a boom at the back door, and it sounded like someone was breaking into the back gate. Kitchen went in the kitchen and looked out the window, at which point she heard banging at the back door and ran with Jones to the bedroom with Jones and his grandparents. So Bunamo and his girl, they ran. Once they noticed it was the police, they ran into the room with their grandparents. That's some coward shit. But carry on. Banks told the assistant state's attorney and grand jury that Jones was running to his grandparents' room. He ordered Thomas to find out who was banging on the door. Thomas grabbed the gun, looked out the kitchen window, and informed Jones that it was the police. In response, Jones said, "Buck or burst that mop," meaning shoot at them. Kitchen also told the grand jury that she heard Jones give the order. Thomas pulled the trigger, but the gun would not fire. He tried a second time, pointing the gun at the back door, and then the gun went off. Thomas and Banks then joined Jones and Kitchens in Jones' grandparents' room. So after the gunshot went off, everybody ran in the grandparents' room. This is a house we talking about, y'all. This ain't no apartment building. This is a house. So everybody got scared and ran in the grandparents' room. Initially, Jones and Kitchens to take the gun to the basement. Jones asked Kitchens to take the gun to the basement, but when Kitchen refused, Jones hid the gun in the grandparents' closet over his grandmother's protest. So the grandma like, "No, nigga, don't hide it in my room." and they just proceeded to. Shortly thereafter, the police called in the group at the house at officers' direction. At trial, Kitchen admitted to being present at the house of the night of August 31st, 2010, and afforded testimony that before she ran to Jones' grandparents' room, she saw Thomas standing with a gun in his hand aimed at the back door. Thomas pulled the trigger, but the gun did not fire. It was not until Kitchen had entered Jones' grandparents' room, so after she ran, she heard the gun. When she ran in the room and closed the door, that's when she heard the gunshot. Where Jones and his grandparents were panicking that she heard a gunshot. Kitchen denied that she heard Jones tell Thomas to shoot. She claimed that her earlier testimony was prompted by Chicago police. At trial, Banks too denied the conversation between Jones and Thomas took place before he heard gunshots. He did, however, admit that Jones asked him to retrieve a gun from under the bed earlier in the evening. Thomas and Jones were tried simultaneously with separate juries. Thomas was also tried by simultaneous bench trial on the court of unlawful use of a felony. The state made one combined opening statement for Thomas and Jones. The state began opening statement by asserting the greatest danger that a police officer could face on the tour of duty is a gun and a criminal who is willing willing to use it. Okay. Remember, the criminal controls crime scene. These two defendants were at the house quite some time with the evidence before they ultimately came out. So they mean that they saying that, you know, even though they shot and they ain't got no gun residue on them, that they controlled the crime scene. They stayed in there until they got rid of shit and they cleaned the residue off and all that. The jury found Thomas guilty of 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 3 counts of aggravated battery with a firearm, found him guilty of attempted first-degree murder of a peace officer and aggravated battery with a firearm of a peace officer. The jury also did not find that the commission of attempt murders, Thomas personally discharged the firearm, proximately caused great bodily harm to the victims. In a bench trial, the state introduced into evidence a certified copy of conviction showing that Thomas had been convicted of robbery in the case. Always doing that, bro. They be bogus for that. That's double jeopardy, though. But Rio ended up getting 26 years, man. Bunamo ended up getting, like, I think he got 18 at first or something like that. And then he came back on appeal and he won his appeal. He went back to the county and bonded out. Lil Durk and them bonded him out. Rio been in there all the whole time. Since 2010, he been in there. He was next door to me. Rio was right next door to me on the same deck, but he was next door to me. I was cell 63. He was cell 64. You know, when he first went in there, Lil Durk them they wasn't popping. They ain't have no money to give him. You know what I'm talking about? So we took care of each other. But when he got that money, man, Rio busted it wide open, man. Like, every time he got it, whatever a person needed on the deck, Chicken needed something, or if Chicken got it and we needed something, or if I got it and Chicken and him, we all shared it. Freaky, too. Little Freaky from 051, all us. We looked out for each other, man. But yeah, this Rio, man, he been gone. You know, this story I did, man, let y'all kids know, man. Look what he went through. He was facing 26 years. The people he was in the crib with, not only did they shoot and run in the grandparents' room and jeopardize his grandparents, but, you know, they had blamed it on Rio, man. But this Trench News, man, y'all get in the comments and let me know what I'm saying. This is Mr. OTF Story. I'm out.